Hey there, this is Ryan from Scribenote, and today we're going to be doing a demonstration of Scribenote Basic. Scribenote Basic is our entry level product that's our first step on the way to making clinical documentation absolutely effortless for veterinarians. So, our long term goal with Scribenote is to make clinical documentation automatic. But first, we're starting with Scribenote Basic. It's not automatic, but what it does is enables really smart workflows for you to get your soaps done where you want, how you want, and when you want, in the way that you want. So we've done that in a couple really well designed ways, and we're really excited to show you them. So let's get started by showing kind of the core of what Scribenote's great at doing, which is producing soap notes. You can do that on our web application, or you could do that on our mobile application on both iOS and Android. Anything you can do on the web app, you can also do on the mobile app, with the exception of exporting PDFs. But we'll get there. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's create a new note. We can create a note as a quick note, or we can create it as a patient note. So when it's a patient note, it gets mapped to patients you have set up in Scribenote. If you don't have a patient set up in Scribenote, but you're about to see them, you might not have time to go and create a patient, or maybe you just don't want to. So you can use quick notes instead. We've opened a quick note and we can see all the standard SOAP fields that you could expect. But at the top here, we have this section called Note to Self. Because your note would be unassociated with a patient, this is somewhere where you can keep track of the information, who this information belongs to. So for now, we'll just call this a uh, demo note for YouTube. So we have our standard subjective, objective assessment plan. And then we have a couple of other interesting fields at the bottom here. We'll get into those later, but just to show you how creating notes works, we'll fill in a little bit of a test subjective. And instead of submitting this note and finalizing this as a quick note, I'm just going to save it as a draft for now. This save as a draft feature is a really important one in Scribenote, and it unlocks a bunch of really interesting use cases for getting your notes done. So maybe if you were in an appointment and there's a couple things you wanted to remember later on when you're doing your notes, instead of carrying around little pieces of paper or a notebook or something like this, or running back and forth to an EMR, what the draft feature lets you do is just fill in those little pieces of information that you need to while you're in the appointment or right after it, and then remember them later on when you're actually doing your notes. So we can save this as a draft, and you'll see that that draft shows up in one spot called the recording section of the dashboard. This is actually a really central piece of Scribenote, and we'll come back here later to see some of the workflows that we enable. But for now, we'll just keep chugging along, seeing Scribenote's core features. So the next thing to see with Scribenote Basic is the ability to record audio. So we've gotten a lot of questions about how audio recordings actually work in Scribenote. Do I have to record the full appointment? How does this work? That it seems kind of inconvenient to have to listen to the whole thing back. Those are all fair questions, but the answer to them is quite simple. You can use Scribenote recordings however you want to. Some of our customers use Scribenote to record their entire appointments. They store 30 to 45 minutes of audio in Scribenote, and they get to refer back to that audio when they're doing their notes later. But you don't have to do this. You can do just a little audio note to yourself if you want to. After an appointment, you can start a recording just like I'm about to do on the mobile app, and you can talk for 2 minutes about maybe some important information that you don't want to forget. You don't have to do this at all, right? We just saw the ability to start creating a soap note unassociated with any audio. We just did it purely through text. The point is, the ball is in your court. You get to do this however you'd like to. You can store hours of audio a day. You can store no audio. No audio. It's entirely up to you. And everything we do at Scribenote is trying to put that opportunity for flexibility into your hands. And the recording option is just another instance of that. So we've been running for a couple seconds here. Let's just stop it to keep this brief. And you'll see that that little audio uploader has shown progress. That's really important because what it's telling you is that that audio you saved is not actually just being stored on your phone. If you did it on the web application, it's not just being stored on your computer. What it's doing is it's uploading to our servers where we keep it secure and we let you access it from anywhere. That's why any recording you make on the phone will also show up on your web app. It won't just be tied to any one device, which means you can start recordings at the clinic and do them later on at night on a completely different device. It's totally up to you. After we create a recording on the phone, what we can do is choose between associating this recording with a patient or a quick note. Let's attach it to a patient. We have a couple patients already set up, but we could also maybe create a patient right now if we wanted to. For simplicity's sake, we'll just associate this recording with Dobby. And we see this little notification that the recording's been associated. And what you'll see is if you flipped back over to your dashboard on the phone, you'll see that a recording for Dobby has now been stored on your recording dashboard. You'll also see the same has been reflected in the web application as well. So now we've got two things done. We've created a draft note. We've recorded an audio. It could be for an appointment. It could be just a little memo. But it's all saved for us, and it's all in one centralized place that's accessible on the web or on the phone. We'll do one or two more things before we get into Super Soap, which is our favorite workflow that we enable with Scribenote. The first thing I want to show is creating a note for a patient. So we're on the web application now. We can see this patient dashboard option. If we click it, we can see a list of the patients we have on our Scribenote. You can create patients with the Scribenote web app. You can also do it on the phone. But for simplicity's sake, let's just pick a patient that we already have set up. So we'll pick Benny. On the patient page, you see a couple really interesting things. At the top here, we see a little bit about Benny by hovering over his name and icon. So you can see some quick facts about him, like his breed, his weight, his age, and whether he's spayed or not, or neutered or not. He's a boy. Um, and we can also see some key information about this patient. So this is the key medical history, chronic medications, and immunization record, along with the dates that those things were recorded. So this is actually really convenient because when you go to a patient's page, right off the bat, you can see the most important things to know about that patient without having to dig through a bunch of records. But you still can dig through records if you'd like to. So we have a note here already saved for Benny. We could expand it, and we can see some information about Benny's last appointment if we'd like. We could filter by date to see all Benny's appointments or a few within a certain range, or we can start a new recording for Benny. So why don't we do that? We'll start a recording, and this works the exact same way that we saw on the phone, but instead of having to associate it with him after, it's automatically mapped to Benny because we're on Benny's page. So if we click stop, that appointment will upload. You'll see it upload on the phone's dashboard, and you'll also now see it in the recording section of your Scribenote dashboard. So now that we have a few things stacked up, I want to show you Super Soap. Super Soap is Scribenote's way of really enabling you to do your soaps in one focused session. So instead of having to flip back and forth between patient pages on an EMR, or carry around a stack of little notepads with different information from every patient you saw in a day, that's a lot of work to do. And so what we do with Scribenote is we organize everything onto that little dashboard section so that later on you can then go and focus on the things that you actually want to do. Super Soap is the best way to do that. We click Super Soap and we can see that we have three soaps to get through. One for Benny, which is the one we just made, one for Dobby that we did earlier, and a quick note, which was the first thing we did. And what you see is the information from that quick note is already here for us. The draft that we started has already been filled in, and the audio recording pieces that we did for Dobby and for Benny are waiting right at the top to be played for us. So in one spot, you can create all these notes really, really quickly, and you can do it in a really pleasant way. So instead of listening to Benny's audio and skimming through to the parts that we need to, I'm just going to show you another feature of Scribenote that you can use to get through soaps even faster, and that's templates. If you open the template option button, what you get to do is pretty much get a shortcut to creating your soaps really quickly. So if Benny was having diarrhea, we could use one of Scribenote's preset templates for diarrhea. We could also create our own templates, and we'll show you a little bit more about that later. But what this does is it saves you from retyping the same information time and time again. We'll click diarrhea, and we'll see that all the information that we've recorded before can be used to create this soap really quickly. So Scribenote preset templates come with these little asterisks. So these are places where you might actually need to fill in some information specific to this patient. If you want to flip through those quickly, you can do that by clicking Command F or Control F on Windows, Command if you're on Mac, and you'll see all the little asterisks be highlighted, and these are places you have to change for that template. So we won't do that right now. We'll save some time. We could do it if we'd like, um, but for now we'll just go ahead and save this note. So without having to move, we're already ready to do Dobby's note. We've got Benny saved, and we can start typing one for Dobby. We don't have to use templates. We can if we want, but just to show you that we don't have to, this is a test subjective. Also, since we designed these on the web app as a really focused session, one thing you can do is tab through these different form fields so that you don't even have to pick up your mouse. On the phone, this is a little bit harder because you don't have a tab button on your keyboard. But what we've done is we've enabled a next input button here. So you can type a little bit and then click next input, and you'll just jump right to the next one. You can do that a few times in a row if you need to. So you don't even have to scroll through and click the right field. You can kind of just jump right to the next text section. So we've saved a little bit of information for Dobby here. We could fill this whole note in, but one thing I want to do is show you a little bit about how Scribenote's objective systems change when they're edited. By default, all the objective systems will present as normal on exam, but if you change any of them, we enable a little design tweak on the patient's page that really makes that section stand out. So instead of doing bar, we'll just do fine. It might not be right, but just to show you how this works. And we'll also fill in a little bit about Dobby's key history. So key history, he's a good boy. Key medication, he's not on any, and his vaccines, they're up to date. We'll submit this note for Dobby. And there, we've just knocked out another note, and then our quick note presents itself to us. We can finish this note off now. It's a draft, or we can just leave it. We don't have to deal with it right now if we don't want to. As you can see, it stayed there for us. We didn't have to deal with it. And it'll stay there as long as we need it to. Why don't we flip over to Dobby's page just to see that how that information was reflected. Dobby now has some key history. We see that he's a good boy and that his immunization records are up to date. And if we expand his latest record, we can see that the field that we changed in the objective section is highlighted in a bright pink. So this is a really great way to have information that is different stand out to you when scrolling through your records. That's almost it as far as some of the things we want to show you with Scribenote. Just want to show you one more really interesting feature, which is integration with EMRs through PDF exports. Scribenote doesn't directly integrate with EMRs. We'd like to. One day we'll get there, but it's kind of a hard thing to do. There's lots of EMRs out there, and we're just a two-person engineering team right now. So what we've done instead is let you integrate through exporting PDFs of the soaps you've made on Scribenote. And then you can import those PDFs onto your EMR in a similar fashion that you'd import emergency reports or things like that. So we'll just show you, if you go over to the export note page, which is where I am now, it's always accessible up here in the top of your page. You can see all the new notes that you've created in Scribenote. We just made two, which is why there's two new notes that we can export. We can export these all at once, or we can export them one at a time by clicking this little download button. Just to show you, we'll export Benny's newest note, and we'll open it up. And boom, just like that, we have that note that was on Scribenote as a beautifully formatted PDF in the same Scribenote format that you're used to. And you can do this with any note that you make on Scribenote anytime. And now that note that we just exported is now neatly tucked down here in the previously exported section, and there's just one note remaining for us to export. Now, you might be wondering, that seems like a lot of work, right? I'm a busy doctor. I don't have time to go and export all the soaps that I make every day and pull them into my EMR. Fair enough, which is why we created the auto export feature in the Scribenote account. So if you go to your Scribenote account by clicking this icon up top and then account, you'll see this section called auto export email. What auto export email does is every time you create a soap note on Scribenote, what it lets you do is automatically send that soap to whoever's at this email address. So maybe if you have assistants at your clinic or front desk reception or vet techs to help you out, you can set up a clinic email. Maybe it's info@yourclinic.com or something like this, where anytime you create a soap note, that note will export via email. So we'll save it and we'll check that out. So what should happen is when I create a soap, Ryan at scribenote.com will receive that soap and then they can export it for me without me even having to think about it. We'll check that out real quick with the last saved draft that we had. So we get to pick up right where we left off with this draft. Maybe we'll fill in some test temperature value. And plan is to subscribe to Scribenote Basic. We'll submit that note. You see this notification pop up on your screen that the note is updated successfully and an export email has been sent to Ryan at scribenote.com. So you didn't have to click any buttons, you didn't have to do this yourself. And if you flip over to your email now, or whatever email that's sent to, you can see that a new PDF is ready for export on Scribenote. Whoever gets this email can just click this button. It's only active for 24 hours to prevent security concerns. So if they clicked on this link and opened it up, oops, sorry about that. Sorry about that. We're on a local development server here, so things are a little bit different than you'd see on the web. But anyway, if you clicked on that link, it'll open up a soap note that you see in Scribenote all the time. But the point is that the user who's exporting this soap note doesn't actually have to have a Scribenote account. So whoever gets that email can download the PDF, open it up for you. There's the beautiful Scribenote soap that you're used to seeing in PDF form, and then they can upload it into your EMR. So again, you don't have to actually worry about importing the soap notes yourself. You can have someone at your clinic do this for you without you even thinking about it. We're really quite happy with this feature. That's almost it for Scribenote. The last thing I want to talk about is why this kind of can all come together to save you some time. So between the ability to add notes on your web application or on the Scribenote app, what you really get is flexibility, right? So instead of being chained to your work desk to do your soaps at the end of your busy day, Scribenote really just gives you amazing flexibility to do your notes the way you want to. You can do it by starting drafts. You can do it by completing full soap notes right away. You can do it by recording. You can do it by filling in great templates. The point is, you get to do it the way you want to do it. And all of this great functionality comes wrapped up in a $10 a month price tag. That's $10 Canadian per month. And so doing notes the way you want to is really, really affordable. I hope you like what you've seen so far. And if you do, please feel free to reach out to us at support@scribenote.com if you have any questions. This video is being posted now, so please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe note. Uh, yeah, that's it for today. Thanks a lot, and hope you like what you see. Bye now.